Good morning. This is going to be a demonstration on how to upgrade from Link 13 to Skype for Business. We're going to start off in showing you what we've already got built, and then we'll take it from a Link 2013 deployment to a Skype for Business configuration. First thing we're going to start with is actually the control panel on our London FE1 machine, and I'll log into our central, in this case, control panel. And from here, we'll take a look at the two sites that we have. While it's loading up, in this case, we do actually have two sites, one being London, the other one being, of course, our Redmond environment. Sign on, and we'll take a look at what it looks like before we actually start doing an upgrade. For those of you who have been working with 2013, this is the standard 2013 control panel. Over here on the left-hand side, we come over and take a look at the topology. And you can see in this case that we have two central sites. We have a London one, and we have a Redmond one. Both of them are up and running in this case. Both of them, notice the versions are linked through, in this case, 2013. So this is what we have from the start in this case. Standard installation, two central sites, Enterprise Edition, running in a pool. So Lund Pool is the first site, Red Pool is the second site, and right now we just have one machine in each one of the pools. So London FE01, Redmond FE01, pretty much duplicate in this case other than just the names being different. From this standpoint, of course, we want to be able to go in and do an upgrade, and this is going to be a demonstration on how to do an in-place upgrade. We'll eventually take both of these up to the Skype for Business configuration. First thing, of course, you need to take a look at from an upgrade standpoint is the fact that you need to make sure you've got the hardware in place. And this is a new option that we have within Link 13 to Skype for Business is an in-place upgrade. Normally, in this case, for most CS days or Link 10 days to, in this case, Link 13, we've had to go in and do a side-by-side from a migration standpoint. So you actually build out a 2013 set of servers, and then migrate the users and the conferencing and everything across, and then eventually take down your old environment in this case. So going to Skype for Business from Link 13, we have this in-place upgrade option that we have. Obviously, we need to make sure we've got the at least updates done on not only our SQL server, because this is the Enterprise Edition, and our front-end servers in this case, because you do have databases that are sitting on them as well too. So the next thing I'm going to bring up in this case is showing you a SQL server. And in this case, it's just the London SQL Server. It's the back end for the front end server. And just to show you in this case that it's 2012, in this case with Source Pack 2. So this has been patched up into, as you can see once it loads up, 11.0.5058. So this is SQL 2012 with Source Pack 2 installed. Our databases are still here. So again, it's just they've been updated in this case up to what we need to have from the back end configuration set up in this case. So that's sort of our back end on that part of it. We've also done the updates on my front end server. So in this case, on both the Redmond pools and the London pool, I went and actually did the service pack updates and the commutative updates for Link in this case. So we're on CU as what 2015's updates. So CU. From that standpoint, in case we get into it, we've also done the updates on the actual databases. So the SQL databases that are SQL Server Express. From the replication status, of course, so the local copy, read-only copy that you have on your front-end server. So those have been done as well, too. So other than that, we're sitting on a 2012 machine. So again, you can see in this case, welcome to 2012. Not R2, but at least 2012. So yeah, so we have the start button down the lower left-hand corner. It's not there from 2012, but 2012 R2. But we do have an operating system that's supported from an upgrade process in this case. So we've got operating systems in place, we've got the source packs up to date, we've got the updates for the link installed, we've got the updates for the databases all installed. The next step, of course, is to go in and actually upgrade or start the upgrade process. For the sake of actually having just a few machines to play with in this case, the next step I actually went back to, believe it or not, is the domain controller. And no, it's not because it's a domain controller. It's the only machine in this case that I've had to play with that actually I can install the Skype for Business topology builder. So that's the next thing in this case in our upgrade process that we go through is to deploy out the admin tools, which gives us our Skype for Business topology builder. You'll notice it looks almost exactly like what we've had for Link 13 and Link 10, other than it does say Skype for Business Server 2015 topology builder up here. You then will connect and download it. You don't start with the new topology. You're just going to download the topology. And of course, just like we did in 13 and 10, it would go in and ask you to save a local copy. So that's what we're going to wait for here. From this standpoint, the subtle differences will start to show once this actually gets prompted and saved. As you see, is we'll expand out over here on the left-hand side, and we'll start going through what we need to first set up after all our prereqs are already set up. We'll go in and actually make the changes, saying taking from a Link 13 to a Skype for Business 15 configuration. So I'm just waiting for this to prompt me to save it. Go. We'll call this one upgrade. Save it. And a couple seconds, in this case, you can see here are two central sites. So we got one for London. If I expand out London, notice we have link server 10 that's in here. If we had a link deployment, link 13, which is what we're on. Here's my enterprise edition. Notice I have a co-located mediation pool at the moment. And of course, I'm going to collapse this again. And notice we have a Skype for Business configuration that nothing is set up. By the way, if you notice one of the new areas, welcome to the video interop server pools. Right? So the object being in this case is we want to be able to go in and upgrade this. Now I'm going to start with actually the Redmond site. So I'm going to expand out Redmond and do the same thing. So I'm going to expand out the link server 2013, expand out the enterprise pool, then right click on the red pool. And when I right click on it, one of the options we have is to upgrade the Skype for Business server. Okay? So we'll click on this one. Are you sure you want to upgrade the selected pool to Skype for Business? If you click yes, the topology is going to move it to, in this case, the Skype for Business 2015 node. Then you can upgrade it by running the deployment wizard, right? All right, so we click on yes. Notice I no longer have any pool underneath the link 13, but if I expand out the Skype for Business, notice my enterprise pool is now here. There's the front-end server in it, and of course then the co-location of the mediation server. Okay? So at this point, in this case, we're going to do one at a time, and like everything else that we do in a topology builder, once you make changes, the next step is to go and publish the topology. When we publish the topology, of course, your topology builder will then go in and actually make sure everything is set up right. In this case, it'll actually do a validation check. You click on the next button. And at this point, it should come back and ask us, in this case, that we need to upgrade some of the databases on our Redmond SQL server. That's one of the virtual images I didn't show you, but it's an exact duplicate of the London configuration. So here we go. In this case, again, database listed below are part of your topology. They've either not been created or upgraded in our SQL server yet. So we're good in this case for our London SQL 1. Click on next, and at this point, it's publishing your topology. Now, hopefully, like everything else, if everything's deployed out right, if you're taking one of my classes in this case on Link 13, I always like to say in this case, it's actually a good thing to see a bunch of script going, because at that point, it's either installing the database, or in our process, it's actually updating the database. So what we're really waiting for here is a bunch of script to start going through. Hopefully no red errors or saying it can't connect back to a SQL database in this case. Here we go. There's the first part, enabling topology. And here we go. If you actually read this a little bit while it's going through, notice it does say dropping off procedures, functions, and views from the database, in this case, whatever the specific database is, which is a little bit of a different text, if you want to say, than what we're used to seeing when just the standard installation. So again, notice it does say it again requires a minor upgrade also. So in this case, it is actually taking some upgrades in this case. So there's the script that we're talking about, or I should say the text that's scrolling through it, but I like to just call it script. When this is done, again, we should get success all the way through. Then we're going to move back over to our Redmond front-end server, and we'll start the deployment on that side. You may be wondering why I installed the topology builder on the domain controller. In this case, it was the only machine that didn't have the actual admin tools installed. So that's why I've installed it on the domain controller. That's not a normal process. That's not where you would install it. Again, I've only got 4 or 5 virtual images to play with in this case, so I just installed it on the domain controller because it doesn't have the admin tools on it. One of the things we didn't learn in this case is you cannot install it where the admin's already installed. So both my front-end servers, which is where I'm going to move next, both my front-end servers have the admin tools for Link 13 installed, so it would not allow me to actually install that. Here we are on the Redmond FE1 machine, so the Redmond front-end machine. In this case, now that we've got that installed, I guess we could switch back and actually take a look at our replication, right? So in this case, do a refresh to make sure everything's been replicated out, because at that point, then we start the deployment on our Redmond front-end server. From the Redmond's front-end server, of course, you're going to go in, you're going to install the, or in this case, attach the actual software. And what you'll see in this case is our Redmond front-end server show up. Now, while this is loading, I'm also going to go back in and bring up the management shell. Because one of the things that'll error out in this case, it'll say, hey, by the way, you haven't stopped the services yet. So we're going to go ahead and stop the services. Hopefully I'll, actually, you know what, I'm going to leave that right there, and I'll come back to the shell first. And we'll go in and say disable CS computer. And in this case, I'm going to do, in this case, a storage. Now, what you'll get in this case, as you can see, is disable the computer. This is a little bit different than just stopping the Windows services or CS Windows services. Because again, if you have to reboot the machine, there's a possibility in this case that the services would restart. And every once in a while, in this case, when we go through a deployment, it does install things and then reboots and continues on with the actual deployment wizard, which means those services are going to start, which means we have some problems. So in this case, yes, I'm actually going to go in and actually run a disabled CS computer and tell it to, in this case, not start the services again if we have to reboot. Here's our policy decision points, so PDP. So different server roles or services. Okay, that's done. We're going to switch back over here, and here's the first interface of Skype for Business Server. I don't have internet access, so I'm not going to check for updates right now, so I'm going to say don't check, and click on the next button. We'll accept the license agreement. Click on OK. And at this point, here we go. This is what our configuration is set up for. One of the things, if you take a look at this, other than we might have a little bit of an issue with the installing this prerequisites where we might have to reboot, at this point, assuming that you have all of the updates in place, both on your front-end server from the databases, so again, doing the updates on the RTC local databases, and of course then the SQL server on the back end, pretty much at this point, with an in-place upgrade, you're just hanging out, sort of waiting for this to finish in this case, unless, of course, there's an error. So there we go again from the standpoint of verifying a readiness update. And we'll see whether or not our missing prereqs require us to reboot. One of the nice things about that I found with this deployment is that if it does have to reboot, that unlike previous versions where you had to go back in and bring up the deployment wizard again, that once you log in, right, so here we go. So one markup bonus requests a system restart to complete the installation. It does, by the way, show you what it is down here at the bottom, so if you want to install that ahead of time. Otherwise, we'll click on OK. Notice that it restarts the actual machine. Continuing my thought process is when this reboots and logs back in, unlike our previous versions, it will automatically restart the deployment wizard. So that's a difference in this case of 10 to Skype for Business or 13 to Skype for Business on either one of them, where you had to restart the actual deployment wizard and then it would pick up where it left off. Whereas here, if it does require a reboot, yeah, we've got a reboot going on. But once I sign back in, the deployment wizard will start. While we're waiting for this to log in, I'm going to sort of slide back over here to the other side. You've noticed that all of a sudden now my version is now unknown. Okay, and in fact, actually, we're doing a refresh. Let's see what happens. But notice right now it's unknown because, again, it's in the process of actually updating itself. Move that up there. Once we get our log on screen here, we'll sign back in, and you'll see that our deployment wizard should just take off where it left. Okay, we're logged back in. Within a couple seconds or so, this should restart its deployment. There we go. So at this point, you're just pretty much waiting for it to, as you can see, and it's going to install the roles. You can sort of see what's going on down here along the bottom. Okay. Obviously, it's going to detach the databases, uninstall the local management services, and obviously install the components, services, attach the databases, upgrade them, enable replication, roles, and of course then validate that first there. So this is sort of, again, an in-place upgrade where, assuming that you've got a lot of the updates in place already, and the hardware in place that meets the minimum requirements for an in-place upgrade, that you can just sort of, great, everything there, install the topology builder someplace, migrate, in this case, publish, and then run the deployment wizard on your actual front-end server. And then in this case, we're just sort of waiting for it to